My name is Arlene Herson. The name of the show is Getting to Know You, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Tonight, we're going to get to know a woman who has devoted over 12 years of her life to one of America's favorite pastimes, soap operas. She created the role of Penny in As the World Turns, but when she left, the world continued to turn out good things for her. She has appeared in countless plays on and off Broadway and has co-starred with people like Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, and Art Carney. No matter which way the world turns, my guest comes out on top. She is Rosemary Prinz, and let's get to know her. Welcome to Getting to Know You.
Thank you, Arlene. What a nice introduction.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted that you're here. But as I mentioned in the introduction, you've done a lot of things, but you first gained recognition as Penny in As the World Turns.
Yes.
Did you like doing soap operas?
No.
No. Why?
Well, first of all, playing one part for such a long time. Secondly, because they are geared to have an audience of 1.7 or something times per week, you're constantly repeating and doing the same material over and over again. In other words, you'll have a scene with your grandfather, and then that scene will be repeated by telling your friend Ellen the next day what you told your grandfather, and then you play it with your mother, and it's a lot of recapitulation.
Okay, that's just in case the person that was watching Monday missed Tuesday.
Yeah, because
and
they assume that most soap opera people watch, I mean, the audience watches 1.7 times per week. I don't know where they get that figure, but it
okay,
sticks in my head.
1.7 times a week in 5 days. Now, does
Right,
that mean...
so you have to keep, that's why they're accused of moving so slowly, but it's because people, they have to keep everybody abreast. So you can really turn in one time a week and absolutely know what's going on. Or at least this is a long time ago. I don't know if things have changed. I left As the World Turns in 1968, and I know that the quality of, for instance, women's liberation or what women were allowed to do then has changed. So perhaps they've speeded up the
they
the
haven't.
process.
Okay, now I'm not a soap opera person, but I knew I would be interviewing you. And the past couple of weeks, I guess, I turned on just occasionally when I was home a soap opera, not watching it regularly. And you know what? It's true. I mean, if I had something on last week and I didn't watch it, and this week it's kind of so it still moves slowly. But anyway,
that's why.
So it's nice, so you can watch. But what kind of a person was Penny?
Penny was an all-American heroine. I mean, I lived in the Midwest. I had a very normal life. I married a wild boy in school when I was 17, and we went back and had Coco's and Cookie, and then that was annulled, and he murdered somebody because they said something bad about me. But he told the judge he was sorry, and he didn't mean it, so the judge let him go. And then we had then he became a drunkard, and then I had amnesia in an automobile accident. And then I met a guy who had killed his father in a hunting accident. I mean, it's just your average American life.
Oh, sure.
And then he went blind. To love me was the kiss of death. I mean, one of the adages of soap operas was that happy families do not sell soap. So everything, again, this is part of why it was not a pleasure to be on it, because everything was storm and drang. It was never anything pleasant going on, no humor. Everything was a crisis. And, I mean, I cried my way through 12 years. I mean, nobody ever saw me smile on that show. So.
Okay, but
what was there to smile about?
Well, you've just told us practically the whole story. In
well,
12
I mean,
years,
as you see, that's your average life. Doesn't everybody go through husbands like mad, and they die on her, and she gets amnesia, and people kill each other, and they never pay for it in the soap operas. They kill each other like mad, and they never go to jail.
Okay, how did they get rid of you? How did they write you out of the role of Penny? Did you disappear? How did you just get written out?
I think it's a long time ago. I think I did one of the only bad things I ever did in my life, and they were punishing me for leaving the show. I guess that's why Erna wrote it that way. But I think I tried to steal my brother's child or something terrible, and then I had this terrible guilt, so there I was in the airplane with the tears streaming down, with the voiceover going, and I went off to Europe, and never to be heard of.
Oh, okay. You mentioned that you did the only bad thing, and that's when you left the play.
Never did a bad thing.
You played a very straight-laced girl at Penny. You mentioned you always did the right thing and
never smoked, never drank.
Okay, but however, this goes back a long time ago. At that time, which is over 12, you left 12 years ago, so it was more than 12 years ago. You at that time were living with a man. Okay, that
you mean
wasn't
Rosemary?
done. You, Rosemary, real life.
Oh,
not
yes. Well,
Penny.
real life. Rosemary had nothing to do with Penny.
Okay, but
except that
was there a conflict? Was there Penny, this good girl, and real
no?
life
I mean, I just, what the things that I brought to Penny were honestly in myself. I mean, that was truthful. It's just that Penny wasn't all of me. I mean, Penny was restricted by our society and by the demands of the network and the people that want to sell soap, not to offend anybody, you know. I mean, don't offend anybody. And I was a liberated woman when I was 10. And, you know, it wasn't fashionable, but I didn't give a darn.
Okay, actually, you lived with your husband, who I met, who's a
Yes.
terrific guy, and I can understand why you lived together for such a long time. You did get married. Then you got divorced. Then you got married again. Okay.
Yes.
Why? What happened?
Well, because I'm crazed.
Oh, all right. That's a good answer.
I got married the first time for tax reasons. And it was a pretty dumb reason to get married. We lived together for 6 years, and in those days, I mean, it was like this, the doorman downstairs, and we lived openly, I mean, our names were on the middle. The doorman would say, every time I came in, you're Mr., he's upstairs. And that was the way it was. Then we lived together for 6 years, and then my accountant said, you know, this is ridiculous, Rosemary. I said, I don't want to get married. He said, well, taxes, I mean, you're both paying by the file. So we got married in December before the January deadline. And we got separated in May, divorced in August, and remarried in December. And in that year, a lot of things happened to me personally. A lot of things that I didn't know about myself, a lot of things that I wanted, a lot of things that I missed.
Like what?
What it was in Joe that really provided me with so much nourishment and
Which
support.
was? Okay, what was it about Joe that supplied, I mean, you know, how did he?
Well, he was exactly the opposite of a bad daddy. So I guess that would be a good mommy, wouldn't it? And having lived with a bad daddy, I found that those qualities, which I didn't want to accept in him, were stupid. Those were just old values of somebody else's. And the things that nourished me, the loving and the gentleness and the caring and the consideration. And also the use of drummer. He's very sexy. You know? I mean, that was no small part of it.
Sexy. Oh.
No, I mean, you know, something about that pulse.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I met him. I know what you
know.
mean. Okay, you mentioned a bad daddy. Okay, you had told me privately that your father made your life wonderful and horrible.
Yes.
What did you mean by that? Tell us a little bit about your father, first of all.
Well, my father was a child prodigy. He was a Toscanini's cellist. He was an artist through and through. He was also extremely neurotic, manic depressive, alcoholic, compulsive gambler, everything. But he was also the funniest man you'd ever meet. I mean, he just charmed anybody if he wanted to. I mean, if he wasn't in one of his mad streaks. But when he wanted to, he was funny and charming and gentle and loving. And when he didn't want to, he was a bully and a tyrant and vicious and cruel and murderous.
Okay, I'd like to hear how that affected your life.
Oh,
But wait a minute, no. Oh, yeah.
I just lost my thing.
First,
see?
okay, well, while you fix that, we're going to take a commercial break, and then we're going to come back. We're talking with Rosemary Prinz, who's starring in Marriage Go Round, and we'll be right back. You just shared something really very special with us. I mean, it wasn't special because it was terrible what happened to you, but I think it's very special to be able to share that kind of a thing. How did you cope with having that kind of a father?
Well, when I was very young, I adored him. And of course, when I was very young, I didn't do that many things to displease him, so I got a lot of the good stuff. Once I started, of course, the demands made upon me were incredible. I mean, that's a childhood that could never be regained. I mean, I just lost it because everything was 110%. I mean, nothing was good enough. I was his daughter. I was his progeny. And I guess a lot of things happened to me. I got a lot of things turned off. I got a lot of things turned on that shouldn't have been turned on. He was my love symbol and my first sexual symbol, and because he was so important in my life, it cost me a lot of pain later on to get rid of all those and 2 analysts later.
Okay.
And 14 years.
And you're not seeing an analyst anymore.
No,
You
no.
talk about it in past tense.
Yes, I finished my last analysis about 10 years ago.
Okay, well, you were very gifted as a child, as we had taught it, which probably made it tougher for you because you had a famous father who had a gifted daughter and really expected the best because you always gave the best. Your IQ was incredibly high, as you had mentioned. You skipped twice or 3 times.
3 times before.
And wound up,
Theodicy.
okay, in a progressive school before you entered high school. You entered high school at the age of 12. Which must have been terrific. I mean, that
Wonderful.
must have been
And
a
I
lot
had
of
long
friends.
blonde curls
Right?
that my mother used to love.
Yeah, oh, well, we're learning that that's not the thing to do. Okay, and then at the age of 16, you were already in your first
actress.
play.
Yes.
Okay, when you did all this, was your father ultimately proud of you when you became an actress, when you graduated with such high honors?
Well, those were really the bad years. In high school was when he became an alcoholic, and so those years were really about drunken nights and wild scenes. So I don't remember. I probably, it's one of the reasons I wanted to be an actress, is that it was to get away from the reality. I mean, I always wanted to be. Ever since I was a kid, I would play act. I would get all the kids in the neighborhood, and I would make a play. I would write it, direct it, and produce it, and star in it. And so I think that was probably one way of avoiding my own life, was to become all these characters. And then when I knew I could get out of high school, instead of going to college, I cut school and went to a producer and got a job. And then I was on the road immediately, I think, to get away from that environment, which was horrendous.
Oh, okay, just share with us the wire that your father sent when you started your first acting career.
He sent me a wire which sort of sums up our entire relationship. It said, I was performing in a play with Diana Barrymore called Joan of Lorraine, and I think we opened in Wilmington, Delaware. Anyway, the wire went, "If you're good, you're mine, no others. If you stink, you're still your mother's."
Very understand. Obviously you were good because you did go on to lots of other things.
I don't know if I was any good then.
All right. Well, but recently you were on Broadway and you were very good. I saw you in Tribute with Jack Lemmon.
Yes.
I love that play. You were really very special in it. What was it like for you to play on Broadway opposite a star like Jack Lemmon?
Well, it's wonderful. It's always wonderful. I've played with a lot of wonderful leading men like that who were superstars, like Art Carney, who was also a marvelous gentleman. We did Prisoner of Second Avenue, and it's a great opportunity because with a Jack Lemmon in it or an Art Carney, it's an automatic hit. I mean, you know, people are going to come, and because they're the kind of people they are, they've chosen the plays. I mean, the play isn't going to be worth nothing, you know. So it's usually going to be a good vehicle, and it's going to be well attended, and people are going to love it. And of course, with Tribute, it was written for Jack, and I mean, it was just a tour de force. Most people that saw it really felt that it had changed their lives somewhat. So that's very nice. That's what acting's about.
Yeah, but what was it like for Rosemary Prinz? What was he like to act with? What was it like personally for you?
Well, he's a very generous actor. He knows what he's doing. He's a superstar. I mean, you know, his availability socially is not that great, but that's not what the work is about. The work is about what goes on the stage, and on the stage, he was there every moment and a joy to be with.
Have you ever played opposite a leading man that you really did not like?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. How did you handle that? And who was he?
I won't say that, but it's very difficult, especially if the play warrants that you are supposed to love him or like him or even just can stand him. And all you keep thinking is, if he does that again, I will punch him out in the dressing room. I mean, that's not too good. Really, though, compared with, I mean, I've been in the theater all of my life, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of plays and thousands of television shows. And considering all the work I've done, I can count on my hand and have fingers left over when that's really been, that problem has happened. Most actors are very vulnerable, childlike people, as opposed to childish. I mean, David Merrick thinks we're children. That's stupid. We're not childish, or at least that's what my analyst once said to me. She said, Rosemary, I don't want to kill any of your childlikeness. I just want to get rid of the childishness.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's what happened. But I think most actors are like that. There's a quality that never leaves them, which is why they can pretend to be somebody else, you know. I mean, that is a childlike thing to do.
Okay. No, I don't think any of us should ever completely grow up. So therefore, being childlike is okay. You mentioned television, and of course, you've done Broadway. And have you done any movies?
Well, I have one feature film to my credit, and that's a VD film I did for the Army when I was 17.
Oh.
But it hasn't really changed my career very much.
We have to take another break now. We're breaking on a VD film. Okay. We're talking with Rosemary Prinz, and we'll be right back, so I hope that you'll stay right there. My guest, Rosemary Prinz. It has been delightful to meet you, and last night, actually, it was delightful to see you, because you are now starring in Marriage Go Round at the Club and A Dinner Theater in Sayreville, New Jersey. It's a different kind of a role than I've seen you in before. I loved it. I have to say, I thought you were delightful. It was a comedy, and even though it wasn't so believable, all the things that happened, I just went with it.
You suspended your disbelief.
Yeah. And you were terrific. How do you feel about that play? Can you just tell our audience a little bit about what the play is about, so that they...
Actually, it's about monogamy. And it was originally done in 1958 with Claudette Colbert and Charles Boyer on Broadway. And you know, they ain't no slouches. So this is kind of a fun little piece that's really about relationships and working at them, and a little dated but fun. And I have a wonderful cast, and we're and what's so really fun about the show is that it's seen through two people's point of view. I'm a dean of women, and my husband is a professor at the same university, and we open up with him at the lectern addressing his lecture, and I am at the other stage left addressing the women. And so we see the male point of view and the female point of view, and the old battle of the sexes, you know. But it's fun, and as you said, even though some of the things that happen are not particularly what would happen today, you suspend your disbelief and you go with it. And the people love it. It's wonderful.
I did. Okay, you're a very understanding wife in the play, though. Part of the play is about the husband being on the brink of an affair with a young, beautiful girl. Sexy, too.
Yes.
You were very understanding. Now, in real life, would you be so understanding?
I think I'd kill. I don't know. It's just, fortunately, one of the things that you know, talking about Joe is he's a monogamous man. And there are very few of them around. And I think that's important to me, even though my liberated self says it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So go fight your feelings.
Okay, Joe, your husband.
Joe, my husband,
who we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay, a good deal of your time has been spent touring in plays like I Do, Maine, Annie Get Your Gun, Prisoner of Second Avenue. I could go on and on, 40 Carats. You've been in a lot of plays, but a lot of them have taken you on the road. Mm-hmm. Do you like traveling? Is that difficult, or is that fun, or to be away from home so much?
I've always been a gypsy, and I haven't, you know, it's like I'm too stupid to know any better, you know, I've always done it, so it just seems to me part of, besides I think genetically I'm structured to be a gypsy. The only thing now is that we have a house in West Hampton. It would be nice to enjoy that a little bit more. We have an old dog, and he's trooped with me since he's 6 weeks old. He's now 14.
Okay, wait a minute. When you say an old dog, okay, because it was very, when I read your bio, it's an unusual thing. I've read many people's bios, but Rosemary Prinz's bio says at the end that she lives with her husband in West Hampton Beach with their son, Murray, a schnauzer. It isn't until the last line that you realize Murray is not a child.
Well, I still haven't realized it. I mean, they make me put that in. I would just leave it with Murray, my son, but somehow people don't understand. You know, it's funny. When I was a kid, because I was a kid actress, as you know, and I would be with people like Vicki Cummings, and I would see them with their dogs, and just vomit over them. You know, I mean, I just thought, oh, please, I'll never be one of those childless actresses in my middle years with a dog. And of course, I'm the worst offender in the world. Baby, darling, what can I do for you? Mwah. And I'm not the least bit embarrassed.
Yeah, oh good, it's a nice thing. You must have an incredible amount of energy, because there was one time you were appearing in a Broadway show. I think that was Prisoner of Second Avenue. And, oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was, I have it written down here, Three Men on a Horse.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were starring at that time in a soap opera as well, All My Children.
Yeah.
How did you manage? I mean, the soap opera was in the daytime, the Broadway show was in the nighttime. When did you manage to sleep?
Well, you can get a lot in between 2 and 4 in the morning. No, you're not on every day, don't forget. I was only on 3 times a week, and the weekends are free, so, and then Sundays off. Since Sunday's a dark day for both the television and the theater. I mean, it's hard, but it didn't last it was a very short time, actually. And a lot of people do it. And in fact, one of the reasons I stayed on As the World Turns for 12 years is because I did so many plays. They gave me time off. And that's how the actors maintain their sanity, because really, it's a terrible grind. And as I say, you have to learn all those words every day, and they're so similar because you keep playing the same scene differently. So you really need to, for your own soul, you need that kind of fix. So that's how you get your fix.
Okay. When you work so hard, what do you do to relax?
I play the piano.
Oh, and just recently started taking lessons.
Yes, well, I just recently started playing the piano again. I had not touched the piano since I'm about 11. And as I was telling you in the car, 4 years ago, I decided that the only person I was punishing was my father, and since I wasn't mad at him anymore, I didn't see any reason to punish him. So I decided to take lessons again, because at one point, I was thinking of music as a career, but I really always knew I'd be an actress. But now that really it's like a real hobby.
Yeah.
And I sit and I practice for 3 and 4 hours.
Yeah.
It gives me a real focus.
We have to take another break right now. We're talking with Rosemary Prinz, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes, so please stay right there. We're back with my guest, Rosemary Prinz. You shared a lot with us about the different things that you've done in your life. Are you pleased the way your life has worked out as an actress, as the way things have happened for you? Is this how you predicted it?
No.
No. Okay. How would you have made it different?
Regrets are ridiculous. I wouldn't have stayed on As the World Turns that long. I would have hopefully gone in a different direction earlier. And then I think that so much has to do with luck in my business, and with society having a certain feeling about the theater. If I'd been different, I might have even tried to work in England, where they subsidize theater and where I would have been able to do classical roles and see whether I could cut it. I mean, it's something I don't even know. I mean, the most classical thing I've done is O'Neill, and that was wondrous. I mean, that was just an uplifting experience. But I would really like to know if I could do Shakespeare, if I could do Ibsen, Chekhov. In our society, you have to make those decisions. Do you want to eat, or do you want to be an artist? And I opted to eat. And I'm not sure that, as I say, regrets are stupid. But if I would like to have known what the other choices were.
Yeah.
And I
okay.
didn't.
Well, but now for the future, what do you foresee for Rosemary Prinz?
Unemployment. I don't know. I'm going back out to the coast. I mean, it's just a question of luck. I don't know.
Okay.
I could luck out and get some marvelous TV series that would enable me to do any play I wanted on Broadway, or I could just be another one of a lot of middle-aged ladies.
Well,
I think we have to speed up, folks. I recognize that signal.
I don't think that that's going to happen. I must say that it's been a delight having you here. I thank you very much for being a guest on my show.
Thank you, Arlene.
We've seen you now. We can see you in the near future at Club
Club
A, as a matter of fact, until August 3rd. Okay.
Right.
I've seen it already. I hope that our audience will also, and I hope that you have enjoyed getting to know Rosemary Prinz. I know that I certainly have, and that you'll join us again next week. Meantime, good night. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.